A disgraced Wall Street titan, James Harrison lost everything when his partner betrayed him, stealing billions and ruining lives. Alone and broken, he meets Lily Adams, a 9-year-old homeless girl selling paper stars in the Bronx, her keen eyes hiding a secret. She's a math genius. When James discovers her talent for cracking financial fraud, they team up to expose the man who destroyed him. But the fight for justice is perilous. Betrayal, break-ins, and James's failing heart threaten to tear them apart. As they battle a corrupt system that crushes the poor, Lily's brilliance lights the way, but at what cost? Will their bond and her revolutionary algorithm bring down a criminal empire, or will James's sacrifice be the price of truth? One thing's certain, this unlikely father-daughter duo will change the world, or die trying. Stick around to find out how far their fight goes. James Harrison was a name that once echoed through Wall Street. The fearless CEO of Harrison Financial who built a fortune from grit. Now he's a shadow, holed up in a dingy Flatbush Brooklyn apartment, haunted by the betrayal that stripped him bare. His former partner, Robert Mitchell, pulled off a heist so clean it stunned the world. Billions funneled offshore, leaving thousands jobless and families homeless. James's name, once carved on Manhattan towers, is now a synonym for failure. Mitchell's betrayal isn't just personal, it mirrors the city's cruelty. In New York, tycoons sip champagne in Upper East Side penthouses while the homeless shiver under subway stairs, unseen. James knows this divide intimately. He once floated above it, his wealth a shield against the pain below. Now, without that armor, he feels the sting of his past indifference. Guilt eats at him for every deal that widened the gap between rich and poor. One restless night, James sifts through a box of old keepsakes and finds a faded photo of his mother. She was a cleaner, her hands worn from mopping floors to fund his education. In the image, she's beaming outside a small Queens shop, proud of the son she thought would change the world. James's throat tightens. "What's my legacy now, Mom?" he mutters. Buildings renamed, wealth gone, lives wrecked. What did his ambition achieve? His doctor's warning haunts him. Your heart's a time bomb. Stress will kill you, James scoffs bitterly. Losing everything overnight would break anyone. Nightmares torment him, boardrooms in chaos, stock tickers plunging, Mitchell's smug grin as he vanished with the cash. The man who once shaped markets now feels like a ghost, unrecognizable to himself. At 60, his chiseled features are etched with strain. His bespoke suit swapped for a faded sweater that sags on his frame. But something shifts when James passes a Brooklyn thrift store. A woman stands outside, clutching a thin jacket, sobbing, as she begs for a child's coat she can't afford. Her desperation pierces him, a raw reminder of the people he ignored in his rise. He wants to help, but has nothing to offer. The shame of his fall blends with a deeper regret. He fueled a system that let people like her fall through. The financial world he ruled was a rigged game, where men like Mitchell could cheat and walk free, while workers paid the price. That moment cracks something in James. He can't keep hiding, drowning in self-pity. He needs to face the world, not the sleek boardrooms of his past, but the real New York, where survival is a fight. He grabs a coat, steps onto the pulsing streets and starts walking. The city's rhythm is relentless, blaring horns, shouting vendors, the hum of ambition and despair. He's not sure what he's seeking, but for the first time in months, he feels a spark of purpose. Maybe there's still something worth fighting for. The injustice of it all burns in him. Mitchell's betrayal didn't just ruin him, it crushed thousands of lives. Families lost homes, retirees lost savings, while the system looked away. James has seen the headlines. Another bank scandal, another CEO skating free. The game is rigged against the powerless. And he was once a player. Now, on the other side, he feels the weight of that truth. He doesn't know how, but he wants to make it right, not for himself, but for the people he failed when he was on top. As he moves through the crowds, James's heart races. Not from his condition, but from a fire he hasn't felt in years. The city is alive, brutal and unforgiving, but it's also where second chances are carved from grit. He's not sure what's next, but he's ready to find out. Somewhere in New York's chaotic streets, a little girl with a brilliant mind is about to show him what it means to fight back. James Harrison wandered the Bronx's bustling market, the air heavy with street food aromas and vendor chatter. He wasn't sure why he'd come, only that staying inside felt like giving up. Amid the noise, he spotted a small figure bent over a cardboard display, surrounded by delicate paper creations, stars, cranes, and tiny foxes, each folded with striking precision. The girl behind them couldn't be older than 9, her clothes worn but neat, her dark hair tied with a tattered ribbon. Her name, he'd soon learn, was Lily Adams. "Want one, mister?" she called, her voice clear, no hint of pleading. Her eyes, sharp and guarded, met his, and James felt a jolt. There was something in her gaze, intelligence, strength, a depth too heavy for a child so young. He knelt to examine her work, awed by the intricate folds. "You made these?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Lily said, pointing to a star. "It's about angles. 60 degrees for balance, 30 for the points. Keeps them strong." Her words were matter of fact, but James's jaw tightened. This wasn't just craft talk. It was geometry, spoken with the ease of a scholar. He bought her entire stock, $30 for 25 pieces, and handed her the cash. "Keep the change," he said, noting her thin frame. "Hungry?" Lily paused, fingers gripping the bills. Hunger won, and she nodded. At a nearby diner, she wolfed down a sandwich, barely pausing, as if food was a rare gift. James watched, his chest tight. He'd seen poverty before, but never this close. A child fighting to survive in a city that didn't care. "Where's your family?" he asked softly. "My grandma's in the hospital," Lily said, her tone flat but her hands restless. "Stroke. I'm managing till she's back." She looked away, but James caught the fear in her eyes. He noticed 2 men across the street, watching them too closely. His old instincts flared. Something was off. "What's in that notebook?" he asked, spotting a worn journal in her bag. Lily's hand darted to cover it. Just stuff. But James glimpsed a page filled with equations, complex formulas that stunned him. This wasn't a child's scribbles. It was advanced math, the kind he'd seen in boardrooms, not on the streets. "You wrote those?" he pressed. She nodded, hesitant. "Grandma taught me. Numbers make sense when nothing else does." The diner's fluorescent lights hummed above, but for James, the world shrank to this girl. She was a contradiction. A homeless kid with a mind that could outshine his best analysts. Outside, rain fell, cold and unyielding. Lily packed her things, ready to face the storm, but James couldn't let her go. "I've got a spare room," he said, surprising himself. "Just for tonight. It's dry, safe." Her eyes studied him, weighing his intent. Finally she nodded, clutching her bag like a shield. At his apartment, James set up a cot in his office, but Lily refused it. She curled up on the floor, her backpack as a pillow, her small body tense, even in sleep. He sat nearby, watching her breathe, her face softening slightly. In the quiet, he heard her whimper, a soft, broken sound that cut deep. This child, so fierce by day, was still just a kid, scared and alone. He stayed there all night, a silent vow forming in his heart. The next morning, James woke to find Lily already up, arranging her paper creations with meticulous care. "Why'd you help me?" she asked, not meeting his eyes. "Most people don't." James thought of the thrift store mother, his own mother's sacrifices, the system that let kids like Lily fall through. "Because I know what it's like to feel invisible," he said. Her eyes met his, and for the first time he saw a flicker of trust. Outside, the city roared, uncaring. James knew neighbors would gossip, judging a fallen tycoon taking in a street kid. He didn't care. Lily wasn't just a charity case. She was a spark, proof that brilliance could thrive in the darkest corners. And maybe, just maybe, she was the purpose he'd been searching for. James Harrison woke to the soft rustle of paper in his small Brooklyn apartment, morning lights slipping through dusty blinds. Lily Adams, the 9-year-old he'd taken in, sat cross-legged on the floor, her notebook open, scribbling equations with a pencil stub. Her focus was fierce, unbroken, as James stirred. He watched, still grappling with the fact that this homeless girl was no ordinary child. Her mind was a wonder, weaving numbers into patterns he'd only seen in elite financial models. Yet, she was just a kid, carrying a world's weight. "Morning," James said, his voice rough. Lily glanced up, giving a small nod before returning to her work. He noticed a new paper star on the table, its edges crisp and perfect. "For you," she said quietly. "Grandma said stars mean hope, even in the dark." James's throat tightened. He picked up the star, its delicate folds a testament to her skill and heart. "Thank you," he whispered, tucking it into his pocket like a charm. Over coffee, James glimpsed Lily's notebook again. The equations weren't random. They analyzed patterns in a discarded financial report from Harrison Financial he'd left out. "These numbers are wrong," she said, pointing to a column of transactions. "They don't balance. Someone hid something." James leaned closer, his old instincts kicking in. She was right. The discrepancies pointed to Mitchell's fraud, a trail even regulators had missed. This child, surviving on the streets, had spotted what his entire team couldn't. "How'd you learn this?" he asked, amazed. Lily shrugged, her eyes distant. "Grandma was a math teacher. She taught me to see patterns, on the streets, in numbers, anywhere. It's how I picked spots to sell my stars, avoided trouble, knew when people might give instead of take." Her voice was calm, but James saw the toll in her tense shoulders, the way she gripped her pencil. She'd used genius to survive a city that devoured kids like her. James knew he couldn't let her return to that life. He contacted Sarah Evans, a social worker he'd known through old charity boards, to request temporary guardianship. Sarah arrived skeptical, her clipboard a barrier. "You're broke, Mr. Harrison. No job, no stability, the system's overwhelmed. Kids like Lily end up in group homes where they're lucky to get a bed." Her words stung, revealing the harsh truth. Society discarded kids like Lily, assuming they had nothing to offer. James pushed back. "She's not just any kid. She's extraordinary, and I can give her a home." Sarah agreed to a trial period, but her eyes showed doubt. The next challenge was school. James enrolled Lily in a Bronx public school, hoping structure would help. Her placement test results stunned the staff. She aced high school-level math, her solutions elegant and innovative. But her teacher, Mrs. Carter, called James in, her tone cold. "Lily's disruptive. She corrects my work in class. A kid like her, homeless, no parents, doesn't just know this stuff. Is she cheating?" James's blood boiled. "Test her again. You'll see." They did, and Lily passed effortlessly, but the teacher's suspicion lingered, a reminder of the prejudice that marked kids from the streets as lesser. That night, James found Lily curled up on the couch, her face pale. "They think I'm a liar," she whispered. "On the streets, being smart got me noticed. Noticed meant trouble." James sat beside her, his heart aching. "You're safe now. Your brain's a gift, not a curse." She leaned into him, her small frame trembling, and for the first time, he felt like a father, not just a guardian. To cheer her up, James planned Lily's 9th birthday, her first with a cake. He scraped together money for a small chocolate cake and a single candle. When Lily saw it, her eyes widened, then brimmed with tears. "I wished Grandma could see me happy," she said, blowing out the candle. James hugged her, his own eyes stinging. "She'd be so proud," he said, and meant it. But the world outside was harsh. James overheard neighbors whispering, "A washed-up CEO playing dad to a street kid? He's lost it." Sarah's visits grew more frequent, her questions sharper. James sensed the system waiting for him to fail, ready to take Lily away. He saw it in the news, too, stories of evicted families, kids in foster care, lost to neglect. The city's wealth dazzled, but its underbelly was rotting, and Lily had lived in that rot too long. As he tucked her in that night, James made a silent vow. He'd fight for her, not just for a home, but for a chance to shine. Lily's star rested on his nightstand, a fragile symbol of hope. He didn't know how, but he'd make sure the world saw her light, no matter what it took. James Harrison's small Brooklyn apartment hummed with new energy, its bare walls now covered with whiteboards filled with Lily Adams's precise equations. The 9-year-old prodigy had turned their home into a command center, her pencil racing as she mapped patterns in Harrison Financial's data. Her discovery was explosive. Robert Mitchell hadn't just stolen billions. He'd hidden the money in offshore accounts, a timed scheme to resurface when scrutiny faded. James, once a financial giant, felt his old fire reignite. This wasn't just about his ruin. It was about justice for thousands of lives Mitchell had broken. Lily's talent needed allies. James contacted Emily Clark, a former systems engineer at his company who'd rejected Mitchell's lavish offer to defect. Emily arrived, her sharp eyes scanning Lily's work. "A kid did this?" she asked, stunned, tracing a complex algorithm on the whiteboard. "She's not just a kid," James said, pride swelling. "She's rewriting the game." Emily nodded, her doubts fading. "If this is right, Mitchell's empire is fragile. Let's bring it down." They called their mission Project Starlight, a nod to Lily's paper stars and the truth they aimed to reveal. Lily's algorithm was its core, a digital tracker that could detect hidden transactions across global markets. She explained it with eerie calm. "Numbers don't lie. They leave traces, even when people try to hide them." James marveled at her psychosphericalness. A child whose mind sliced through complexities that had stumped his best analysts. But her brilliance had a cost. Late at night, he'd find her awake, clutching her notebook, haunted by memories of the streets where standing out meant danger. Their work hit a snag when Sarah Evans, the social worker, grew suspicious. Her visits turned into interrogations, her questions probing Lily's late-night activities and the odd equipment in the apartment. James deflected, claiming it was for Lily's math studies, but Sarah's eyes lingered on the whiteboards. He didn't know she was reporting to Mitchell, who'd blackmailed her with secrets from her past. One night, James's phone buzzed with a security alert. Motion sensors triggered at 2 a.m. He grabbed Lily, whispering, "Starlight Protocol." Her eyes snapped open, alert, and she snatched her backpack as they slipped out the fire escape. The cold New York air stung as they darted through subway tunnels, Lily leading with a map-like memory of the city's underbelly. "This way," she hissed, guiding them past graffiti-covered walls to a safe exit. In the dark, she grabbed James's hand. "You're the first family I've had since Grandma," she said, her voice small but fierce. "I won't let them take this." James's heart clenched. He squeezed her hand, vowing to protect her, even as a sharp pain pulsed in his chest, a secret warning from his failing heart. They met Emily at a Queen's diner, her sedan idling in the shadows. "Sarah's compromised," James said, his voice grim. "Mitchell's on to us." Emily's jaw tightened. "Then we move faster. Lily's algorithm is almost ready. It's pinpointing Mitchell's accounts with 90% accuracy." Lily, curled in the back seat, added, "It's not just about finding the money. It's about stopping him from doing this again." Her words, wise beyond her years, hit James hard. This wasn't just his fight. It was hers, born from a life where survival demanded justice. In hiding, James rallied support from former employees ruined by Mitchell. There was Jessica, a single mom who'd lost her home, and David, a retiree whose pension vanished. Their stories fueled James's resolve, but his health faltered. At night, he'd clutch his chest, hiding the pain from Lily. One morning, he found her journal open on the couch. A single line in her neat script broke him. "If I lose him like I lost Grandma, I don't know how I'll keep going." He wrote a note in response, slipping it into her backpack. "You're my star, Lily. I'll fight for you always." The city outside their safe house pulsed with iniquity. News flashed. Another family evicted. Another corporate fraud ignored. James saw Mitchell's shadow in every headline, a system that let the powerful prey on the weak. Project Starlight wasn't just about one man. It was about dismantling that machine. As Lily refined her algorithm, James felt a clarity he'd never known. This fight might cost him everything, but for Lily, for the people Mitchell crushed, it was worth it. The danger was closing in, but so was their chance to strike. James Harrison stepped into the sleek Wall Street conference hall, his heart pounding not from nerves, but from the weight of their mission. Project Starlight had led him here, a fallen CEO returning to expose Robert Mitchell's crimes. Lily Adams's algorithm, now 94% accurate, was their weapon. A digital light tracing Mitchell's hidden billions, James's worn suit felt like armor as he took the stage, presenting the algorithm's ability to detect financial fraud without naming Mitchell. The crowd of investors and analysts leaned in, sensing the stakes. In the back, Mitchell watched, his polished smile hiding unease. James's voice was steady, but his chest ached, a warning he ignored. He spoke of patterns in market crashes, of deliberate schemes that ruined lives, families evicted, pensions erased. The math doesn't lie, he said, projecting a simplified version of Lily's work. Whispers spread through the room. Mitchell stood, his voice sharp. Bold claims, Harrison. But isn't this just a bitter man pointing fingers? The jab stung, but James smiled. Numbers don't care about my feelings, Robert. They show the truth. Offstage, Mitchell cornered him, his charm gone. I'll return 40%, $4 billion. No questions, no jail. Walk away or you and that kid regret it. James's blood surged, but Lily's voice echoed, sent through a coded math problem. Do what's right, Dad. Justice isn't for sale, he replied, walking away. Mitchell's eyes narrowed, a predator sizing up prey. The backlash was swift. Mitchell's media allies smeared James, calling him a failed fraud. Headlines mocked Lily as a fake prodigy, a desperate ploy by a fallen titan. James shielded her from the worst, but she saw it all, her sharp mind dissecting their tactics. They're scared, she said, her voice calm. They can't attack the math, so they attack us. Her strength floored him. A child facing a titan's wrath with courage he'd lost long ago. Back at their safe house, James rallied Emily Clark and their network of Mitchell's victims. Jessica, the single mom, shared how she'd slept in her car after losing her home. David, the retiree, spoke of his wife's medical bills piling up. Their pain drove James, but his health was crumbling. Late at night, he clutched his chest, the pain sharper, his doctor's warning echoing. Another crisis could kill you. He hid it from Lily, but her keen eyes missed nothing. You're not okay, she said, her voice shaking. He forced a smile. I'm fine, kid, we're almost there. The plan was to present their evidence to the SEC. But Mitchell's reach was vast. Sarah Evans had planted trackers, feeding him their moves. James's team encrypted their data, but the pressure was relentless. One night, as he finalized the SEC package, a crushing pain hit his chest. He collapsed, the hard drive slipping from his hand. Lily's scream was the last thing he heard before darkness took him. He woke in a hospital, monitors beeping, his body weak but his mind racing. Lily was safe with Emily, but Mitchell's men lingered outside his room, a silent threat. James knew time was short. From his bed, he uploaded the evidence to Emily, including a video for Lily. Your algorithm is bigger than us, he said, his voice hoarse. It'll protect people we'll never meet. I'm so proud of you, my star. He revealed her identity to trusted journalists, knowing it would expose her but ensure the algorithm's legacy. Let the world see who you are, he whispered, tears falling. As nurses rushed in, James's vision blurred. He saw Lily's paper star in his mind, glowing against the dark. His final act was a letter slipped to Emily. Tell Lily she's my greatest legacy, keep her safe. His heart gave out, but his fight didn't. Emily and Lily, grieving but resolute, released the algorithm as open source, naming it Star in his honor. The SEC moved on Mitchell, freezing his accounts, but James wouldn't see it. His sacrifice had lit a fire, one that Lily, his daughter in all but blood, would carry forward, no matter the cost. Lily Adams stood in the soft light of a Harlem community center, her small hands clutching a paper star, the last gift she'd made for James Harrison. His death had left a hole no algorithm could fill, but his final words, "You're my greatest legacy," burned in her heart. At 9, she'd lost the man who'd become her father, yet his sacrifice had sparked a movement. The Star algorithm, her creation, was now a global shield against financial fraud. but the cost was heavy. Robert Mitchell had fled to a non-extradition country, his empire bruised but not broken. Justice felt unfinished, yet Lily, with Emily Clark by her side, refused to let James's fight fade. Emily, the engineer who joined Project Starlight, became Lily's guardian, her steady presence a lifeline. They moved to a modest Queens apartment where Lily read James's letter nightly, "Keep shining," he'd written. She traced his words, tears falling, and vowed to honor him. The algorithm's release had ignited a firestorm. Regulators froze billions in Mitchell's accounts, and financial watchdogs adopted Star to catch fraud early. But Mitchell's allies fought back, smearing Lily as a child pawn and James as a desperate has-been. Lily didn't waver. "They can't erase the math," she told Emily, her voice fierce despite her grief. Together, they launched the Harrison Adams Foundation, funded by recovered assets, to support gifted kids from overlooked corners of the city. Lily insisted on starting in the Bronx, where she'd once sold her stars. At the foundation's first event, she faced a crowd of kids like her, street-smart, ignored, full of potential. "You're not invisible," she said, her voice clear. "Your mind can change the world." She handed out notebooks, each with a paper star inside, and saw hope spark in their eyes. One boy, barely 7, clutched his notebook and whispered, "Like you did?" Lily nodded, her throat tight, thinking of James. The foundation opened learning hubs in Harlem and South Bronx, spaces where kids could explore math, art, anything that fueled their fire. Lily, now in university-level math courses, worked with professors to refine STAR, expanding it to identify talent in underserved communities. She called this project New Light, a tribute to James's belief in second chances. Her professors, once skeptical of a child prodigy, now sought her insights, her papers reshaping computational theory, yet she stayed humble, shaped by the streets that had forged her. One evening, Lily returned to the Bronx corner where she'd met James. The market buzzed, but the spot felt sacred. She placed a paper star on the pavement, a quiet memorial. A girl nearby selling bracelets watched her. Lily knelt, offering a notebook. "You're good at this," she said, nodding at the bracelets. "Want to learn something new?" The girl's shy smile echoed Lily's own, years ago. As she walked away, Lily felt James's presence, his pride wrapping around her like a warm coat. The foundation's work gained global attention. Lily and Emily spoke at a London conference, presenting STAR to regulators. "This isn't about one man's crimes," Lily said, her voice steady. "It's about protecting people who lose everything when the powerful cheat." The crowd stood, applauding, but Lily's thoughts were with James. She'd found a video he'd left, recorded in the hospital. "You taught me what matters," he said, his eyes bright despite his pain. "Keep your light alive, my star." She played it when doubt crept in, a reminder of why she fought. Mitchell's escape gnawed at her. News hinted he was rebuilding in the shadows, untouchable. But Lily saw the bigger fight, the system that let men like him thrive. The foundation funded legal aid for fraud victims, amplifying voices like Jessica's and David's, the employees James had rallied. Lily wrote a book, Starlight Rising, about their journey, dedicating it to James. It inspired millions, but for Lily, it was a letter to the father she'd lost. Standing outside the Harlem hub, Lily looked up at New York's sky, stars faint against the city's glow. "Thank you, Dad," she whispered. James's sacrifice had saved her, not just from the streets, but from a world that dimmed her light. The foundation, the algorithm, the kids she'd lifted, they were his legacy and hers. Mitchell might never face a cell, but Lily's work ensured he'd never win. Her light and James's would shine on, a beacon for those the world forgot. James and Lily's story hits hard. It's a reminder that seeing the overlooked can spark real change. I believe we're all called to lift up those buried by society's inequities, like Lily, whose brilliance could have been lost without James's faith. His sacrifice shows legacy isn't about wealth, it's the lives we transform. Some might argue one algorithm or one person can't dismantle systemic injustice, and I hear that. The odds are tough, but stories like this push us to act, however small. What do you think? Can a single fight ripple outward, or is the system too entrenched? I'd love your perspective. Agree or disagree, share below. Thank you for diving into this powerful journey. Let's keep the conversation alive. Share your thoughts, spread this story, and inspire others. Together, we can amplify the voices that need to be heard.